Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me at the back? Okay, no problem. Thank you for coming along to our session. I know the day's getting long and you're all eagerly looking forward to the awards night, so thank you for joining us. Glenn's going to take you through some hop sensory this afternoon, but I thought there's probably a lot of people in this room that don't actually know who we are, because you might pick up from my accent, we're not from around here. So I'll just give you a quick introduction. I'm Rochelle Roscoot. I'm the sales manager with Ellerslie, and Glenn will be taking you through sensory this afternoon. Glenn's a technical brewer with over 20 years experience. He judges beer all around the world, and we're very fortunate that he's a part of our company and does a lot of R&D on hops and other brewing ingredients for us. So just a quick background on who we are. We're a third generation family-owned Australian hop growing business. Our managing director, Greg, is on the left. His father is in the middle, and his son, Josh, who is now the fourth generation, is pictured on the right. And we're based in Victoria. So if anyone has been to Australia before, we're right down the bottom here. Which is the optimal place to be growing hops within Australia. So our farm is located around about 3-hour drive outside of Melbourne, and 3 hours for us is about 250 kilometres, so it's a fair way out. We are a complete hop processing company, so we grow the hops, we pick the hops, we kiln dry the hops, we bale them, and then we turn them into pellets and package all of it. So we do everything ourselves from start to finish. That's just I guess a bird's eye view of our farm, where you can see all the lines. That is hops growing, so you can see there we've got plenty along a creek that runs through here. And this little grey or white dot is our processing facility. And to give you just a little bit of scope on the size of it, that is our picking shed. So you can see that we're a relatively large setup. We were very unfortunate that we had a fire in 2017 and our entire processing facility burnt to the ground. So the upside of that is nowadays we've got a brand new $10 million or 10 million Aussie dollar processing facility, and everything is brand new. So we've got the most optimised equipment we can, we've got the most optimised drying systems, baling systems, pelleting systems. So we're really getting the most out of our hops without compromising on quality. These are our kilns, so you can see up in the top right hand corner we've got 6 kiln beds, and we've got a unique drying system where we actually run hot water through our fans, basically through a radiator, and we blow warm air that's been warmed up through the radiator to dry the hops. So we are the only hop company that we know of in the world that does this. Everyone else uses a naked flame, and they're essentially blowing hot air from that flame. So when they're blowing hot air, they're also blowing all the fumes from burning gas, whereas we are the only one that is blowing clean air to dry our hops out. We have partnered with Brewer Essentials, so I don't know if anyone's been to the Brewer Essentials stand out there. Girish is joining us today. He's standing over the back. Girish is going to be a wonderful help in this session. But when we do get to the end of it, if you've got any questions, please come and see myself, come and see Glenn, come and see Girish. We're all here to help. And these guys are stocking our hops right now in Bangalore. So if you've got any inquiries about it, please come and have a chat to Girish afterwards. I won't keep going. I'll hand over to Glenn so that you can get into all the fun stuff.
All right, so now we're going to look at some hops. We're going to rub some hops between our hands and have a look at the aromas and all that. There's 2 ways this can go. I can stand up here and tell you exactly what you're going to smell and what beers you should use these hops in, or we can make this interactive and you're going to let me know what you're smelling and what beer styles you think they're going to be useful in. It's a lot better way than me just telling you, okay? So this has to be interactive. We're going to do 4 hop varieties today. All these hops are grown on our property. 2 of these hops, basically anyone in Australia, if they had a hop farm, could grow these hops. The other 2 hops we're going to do are what we call proprietary hops. So we own these hop varieties. No one else in the world is allowed to grow these hops. If we ever find these hops growing anywhere else in the world, then I guess lawyers and all that sort of stuff get involved and all that. So the one thing about the hops we're having a look at today is they're the freshest hops we've got. But technically they're going to be a year old now because we started harvesting on Monday. So we're currently in our 5th day of harvesting. So remember, we're Southern Hemisphere. We're the completely opposite to America and Europe. So we're 5 days into our harvest at the moment. So the hops we're looking at will be our 2022 vintage. One thing we're very keen on and very sure we're going to do here in India is always make sure we're sending the freshest possible hops that we can so brewers can get their hands on the freshest possible hops. Like Rochelle said, I've been brewing for 20 odd years and I know the importance of using fresh ingredients and fresh hops. So that's what we want to make sure that all the brewers here actually get. So like I said, we're going to pass out some hops, get some in your hands, rub them around, talk amongst your table, and then yell out what you're smelling. Let me know what you're picking up. And then we'll discuss it a bit more, work out some flavours and some beer styles that we think will work. And then what you can do is you can go buy these hops, make these beers, and next time I come back to India, I can try all these new beers that's got our hops in it. Remember, the more hops you buy, the more chance I've got to come back to India. No, just kidding. That's all right, I'll be back anyway. But I want to really see what different brewers from different parts of the world do with our hops. It's actually a really exciting part of my job to see what people see and think about. So we'll pass around the first hop variety. So you're going to grab some, get them in your hands. When you grab hops in your hands, make sure you really get it in there, and the heat from your hands will actually help to release some of the aromas, some of the essential oils. So really get them in there, crush them up, get in there, smell them. I know I don't need to tell anyone this because we've got a lot of experienced brewers in this room. Don't eat the hops. I've done a lot of brewery tours before, like where you get brewery tours. And you always get that one annoying person on a brewery tour that's being, as we'd say in Australia, you'd call them a dickhead. They're really annoying. They're the people you tell to eat the hops. So if you're ever on a tour and someone tells you to eat the hops, you're being a dickhead. So keep that in mind moving forward. So please don't eat them, smell them, let me know what you start to think. The first hop we're doing is cluster. So cluster hops, quite a large, we produce quite a lot of cluster in Australia. It is in one of our big macro beers in Australia. So because brewers have this perception that if it's in a mass-produced beer, it can't be a good hop. But personally, I love this hop. I reckon this is a hop that's got some really nice aromas. It works in a lot of beer styles. So yeah, look, I'm looking forward to see what everyone here thinks. So rub, sniff, and then let's see what you think. While you're doing that, we were going to do the isovaleric spike, but that was done in the previous discussion. So one of the reasons why, obviously, the reason we do fresh hops is we don't want that cheesiness coming through in our beers. So a couple of things that must be, if you're buying, say, a 5 kilo bag of hops and you don't use the whole 5 kilos, think about how you're going to store those hops for your next usage. There could be, I'm big on buying like a little cryovac system so you can reseal those hops and try and keep them as fresh as possible. Make sure you've got a good recording of when those hops were open. I've been to many breweries where you see a fridge full of half-open bag of hops and it's just got the name of the hop on it, but you've got no idea how long those hops have been sitting in that fridge. It's no different to You wouldn't grab a carton of milk and just leave a carton of milk in your fridge for 6 months and pull it out later and drink it without smelling it first to see if it's good. So fresh hops, there's nothing more important than using fresh hops. Everyone had a rub and a sniff? You have to yell out quite loud, but yell out. What are we picking up? Sorry? Lemony citrus. So we've got lemony, citrus. Anything else? There's no wrong answers in sensory. That's the best thing about sensory. There's no wrong answers. Sorry? Mango. We've got mango, mint. Yep. Fresh cut grass. It's actually sounding quite nice, actually. So with a bit of fresh cut grass, mango, mint, what sort of beer style are we going to use this in? Cold IPA? Anything else, or is that just is cold IPA the new fashionable? Hang on. Oh no. This is what happens when Michelle gives me the clicker. There we go. We're good. So Aussie Cluster. Very much a noble style variety. Our alpha acids usually between 4 to 6.5. Some quite high beta acids. Some fruity citrus, a bit of spice, a bit of resin. Grapefruit, pine, citrus. This is one. So in Australia, it's in a beer called 4X Gold. So if anyone's ever been to Australia and drank 4X Gold, it's a mass-produced Australian lager. But this hop works. I've done some trials in this beer, on this hop. I've done it some really good cluster Kolsch, but doing it a little bit less traditional, where you're chucking a little bit in dry hop, 2 grams a litre dry hop, just to give some that nice little lifted grapefruit, citrusy sort of aromas. Works good in New World lagers, which are another style that's really starting to take off around the world. We all love lagers, but we all like to put our little modern twist on it by chucking a little bit of dry hop in or a bit of late Whirlpool hop. Australian, for us, Australian ales, which is again Australian ales. Australian pale ales are a little bit more, less bitterness, so less hops added during the boil and more added again in the Whirlpool and dry hop, just to give a nice lifted pale ale variety. Overall thoughts on this hop? You can be honest. Everyone's quiet, so I'm going to take that as everyone loves it. I've got the microphone, so I can make up the rules, I've decided. Sorry? Yeah? Bit of onion, yep. Yeah, like I said, like a lot of things, like a lot of the traditional Australian hop varieties that we grow very much came from noble English varieties originally. They've been bred, they've been interacting with some other varieties that come in, so we are starting to get some new varieties coming through and some new aromas, but definitely still a very noble style, which to me would probably work quite well with a lot of the more European styles that we see here, that I've been seeing here in India, definitely. Should we move the second one? All right, so we'll move the second hop. Try not to get them mixed up. The other thing, don't rub your eyes. That's the other bit of advice. I feel like I'm getting the wind up. They're actually like pulling down the back wall as I'm talking. It's like, So the hop we're bringing around now is a hop variety called Super Pride. There's another hop variety in Australia called Pride of Ringwood. Pride of Ringwood is in quite a few Australian beers. Again, a lot of the big macro breweries have used Pride of Ringwood. Super Pride, sort of like, as it sounds like, it's souped up brother. So again, we're generally looking at hop variety, alphas 11 to 13. So again, quite high. Traditionally used for a bittering hop, but again, is actually quite a nice hop variety to use later on, either during your whirlpool or even you can dry hop, but generally more late bittering and whirlpool for this hop variety. Garesh, have you got the Super Pride? Garesh, have you got the Super Pride? Do you think we've got some? If you haven't got any of the Super Pride, put your hand up and make sure you get some. Michelle. Well, hopefully you're noticing that your hands are starting to get sticky. It's actually a great sign that you're actually using fresh hops. A lot of time you start trying to do this with 2018, 2019 vintage hops, you're probably not going to quite get that sort of oiliness on your palate, on your hand. So this is Super Pride. So what are our thoughts on this one? Cooked green mango. Beautiful. I'm going to write that on the marketing stuff from now on. Orange zest, orange peel. Yep, beautiful. A lot more tropical than the last one. Yep. And this is a funny thing. Like, do you hear, brewers and all that try these hops here and go, oh wow, tropical and all that. If I said to an Australian brewer that a hop that's been around for probably 40, 50 years is tropical and fruity, they'd laugh at me because it's in a mass-produced beer that they just use it purely as bitterness. But again, you actually pick up these really nice aromas. And again, it's a very underrated. So like I said, alpha acids of 12.5 to 14.5. A great substitute for, if you want to use it in bitterness, it's quite a great substitute for larger, bigger, say German-style bittering hops. Unfortunately, the way it's looking, German hops and European hops might be a lot harder to get this year for everyone. And if you can get them, the price is going to be probably quite high. So a good alternative, definitely things like Magnum and all that sort of stuff. We find a lot of brewers taking out things like Magnum and using Super Pride in place. Fruity citrus, quite herbal again. That's again, it's quite noble, so it's still going to have that real herbiness. I think I just made up a word, herbiness. You can use that as well on your cans. But again, derived from the Pride of Ringwood, like I said, it's the bigger brother. So again, like a really good hop. Again, this is one, it's not an IPA hop. I'm not asking you to go out and make an American IPA with this variety, but it can actually be used quite well blended with some American varieties to complement them very much. Very much, like I said, a good bittering hop. So any style where you use that traditional noble bittering, it can work really well. And again, I said, this is very much more a whirlpool hop variety if I'm going to try and use it aromatically. I generally don't find it to be the best hop purely for dry hopping, but whirlpool hops works very well. Any comments on this one before we move on to the next? The next two that we're going to do are our proprietary hops. So these are the hops that we own and no one else. Although I keep saying no one else in Australia grows Super Pride as well. Like we are the only supplier of Super Pride, but other hop farmers have the right to grow Super Pride in Australia if they wished. So we'll move on to our next hop. Astra? Right, next one we're moving on to is Astra. And you get to look at the hop fields again while we pass around Astra. So while you're looking at that, I'll tell you a bit more about. So I've had quite a few people say last couple of days, you know, do we only grow five varieties? Yes and no. We've got 5 commercial varieties, but of course we have a nursery where we do a lot of breeding. To bring a hop to commercial quantities generally takes between 7 to 10 years. So it's not like we can just go, bang, let's release a new hop next year. It's something that takes a long time. So we've got a few this year that we've actually grown. We've now probably maybe got 1 or 2 acres. So what we'll get those this year. We'll process them the way we process our main hops. And then I've got a little pilot brewery. I'll do a lot of trial batches with this new hop. If there's enough, we may approach a couple of small breweries in Australia and say, can you do a commercial release with it? Just so we can have a look. The sad thing a lot of the time with hops is I may get a hop into the pilot system and think, wow, this smells amazing, or this has great alpha. But when you look at it as a commercial, as an agricultural thing, we may only get 600 kilos to an acre, which is not commercially viable. As great as a hop may smell, or as great as I think it might be, no brewer is going to want to pay $150 Australian a kilo. So there are some hops that I said smell great, but they don't get killed off. They get put back into the nursery and then they'll get bred out with something else to hope that we find something down the track. So you might start with 10,000 different hop plants. Of those 10,000, 10 of those may finally make it into the ground on an acre commercial. And of those, you hope that one of those become a viable thing. So it's a big investment to try and bring out new varieties. So it's not like every year we're going to bring out a new hop variety. It's just not viable for us. All right, so Astra, one of our proprietary hops. What are our thoughts on this one? Tropical as well. Sorry? Passion fruit. Sorry? Tropical patch. Orange. So again, where would we use this one? So, New England IPA? Yep. Quite possibly. Again, I don't think it would stand alone by itself. It'd be another really good one to blend with something, another American variety. We have this, to me, this is another one that works very well with these New World Pale Ale styles. So you're not so in your face, not all about the hops, but has some really nice subtle aromas coming through. So I always pick up a bit of white wine on this one. So there's sweet tropical fruits, candied orange and passion fruit. So again, this is one now, 7 to 10% with the alpha acids. Again, this is one more, definitely a whirlpool dry hopping variety. If you do dry hop with this, generally you wouldn't go over the 4 to 5 grams a litre dry hopping with this. 3 to 5 just generally seems to give you that really nice candied orange, bit of white wine sort of aroma coming through nicely. This actually pairs very well with the next hop we're going to look at as well, which is another one of our hop varieties. So it's it's well worth blending and trying with these one as well. But again, I love to see when brewers come to me and go, oh, I used your Astra and I used it in this variety, a variety that I didn't think about. That's all right, This could work quite well in a fruited sour or something like that, like thinking different ways of using hops is the most exciting part about being a brewer. As I said, good thing about brewers, there's no rules. We don't have to follow rules. We can do whatever we want when it comes to making beer. Right, we'll do the Melba. We're going through this pretty quickly because, as you can probably guess, we are a bit far behind tonight. And everyone probably wants to get back to the Geist Bar. So we're going to do our last one now, which is our Melba. All right, has everyone had a rub and a sniff of the Melba? This is a bit of a favourite of mine. I do really enjoy this hop. It's a hop that I used to work in a brewery when this hop was released in Australia, and I jumped on it pretty early, and it's one that's been a bit of a favourite of mine ever since then. So what are we picking up with the Melba? A biscuit with orange cream filling. Anyone else got anything better than that? Anyone? Yeah. So look, sweet resin. There's a dessert in Australia called a peach Melba. And the reason this got called Melba is because this, on the vine, when you smell this, it is quite stone fruity, very peachy. It's got a lot of peach aromas coming through on this one. But again, quite passion fruity as well. Grapefruit, citrus, summery characteristics. To me, it's more, it has that nice peach stone fruit coming through on it as well. Again, another one of these ones that won't work. It's not a double IPA style hop, but blended with an Astra, blended with another American hop, can work quite well through IPAs. Again, works well in any of the new summery of varieties that you just want to add a little bit of light hop freshness and hop aroma to it. Just as you finish looking, I'd like to apologise for these hops because they're 10 months old. I know they're so old. We're current vintage, so if we'd waited if this was 6 weeks later, I could have brought you the current vintage over. But unfortunately, you've had to have 10-month-old hops, which, on the scheme of things and the way the industry is, that these are pretty fresh hops. And like I said, this is what we want to keep bringing into India, is the freshest hops we can, so you can make the best beers out of it. And like I said, I'm looking forward to hopefully coming back again, 6 months' time or something, and actually starting to see a lot of our hops being used and utilised in Indian breweries. And like I said, there's a lot of smart people in this room, a lot of great brewers in this room. So I really want to see what you can do with not just our hops, but with beer in generally in India. I'm not going to talk much longer. If you've got any questions, I'll probably be at the bar with everyone else here. We'll be here for the awards night as well. So please come and pick my brain. If you want to connect, come and see me. I'll give you my details. If you ever want to, use these hops, go and see Brew Essentials. And I'm only an email away or a WhatsApp message away if you've got any questions. I said I'm here to try and give you whatever knowledge I've got of these hops from the last 20 years. So if there's any questions, if not, feel free, please come and see me. And we'll talk more about hops over a nice beer. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. That was a great session. We are going to take a 15-minute break to set up for the night, and then we're going to kickstart with the award ceremony. So please regroup here in the next 15 minutes. Thank you.
original light up originate. We bring the fire and blaze up the party. We get dirty and we get naughty. Crowd them all, pull up selector, rewind on that wheel director. One and only dance dominator, originator, back up me later. Acting on the dance man, wear white Peter. Girl them rock to the bass and the tweeter. Hear the good vibes come up the speaker. Still kill a sound boy like the Green Reaper. Rock out to we bad man sound. Why everybody right down to the ground? We run with the fight and crowd. Yeah, we cool like it rough and loud. 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 Pull up selector.
Welcome to the Fermented Campus on this wonderful sunny winter day. The Fermented Campus hosting, of course, our corporate center, but not only, also the Fermented Academy, the newest pillar to our future development for fermented beverages. We're actually starting up.
Hi, everybody in this conference hall. You might not be able to see me, but I'm pretty sure I'm audible. I kindly request you to move outside. I know I have been calling you into the conference hall, but I request your cooperation to move outside so we can set up for the awards night. We will commence at 6:15. If y'all can all make your way outside, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you.